right, guys, welcome to another Take 3 Reactor Summit special interview. Today we have a very, very special guest,
Oh, stop
the
it.
one and the only Matt Kearns.
Thank you.
Hey, Matt.
I'm so happy to
How's it
be
going?
here right now. It's so great that I can do my work with your grandfather for my senior citizenship badge. It's really, really wonderful.
Yeah, if you couldn't tell, we have an actual special guest who's not part of Take 3, and that's John the Outlaw Rocha, joining us from some corner of life.
Yeah, yeah. You caught me. It's the end of the day. I'm trying to find the right couch or chair to be comfortable in. I found it, and I'm good to go now.
Perfect. Well, as long as you don't fall asleep, I think we'll be okay.
No, I won't fall, unless Matt bores me with his banter, which is usually the case.
It
So
could
yeah,
happen. It could
it
happen.
happens. It's been
It,
known to happen.
for sure. For sure. We'll have a little bit of banter, but for the moment, we have some very exciting things to talk about. And
Yeah.
one of, I think, this season for you in the Schmoedown, I would say, has been a bit of a roller coaster. Some ups and downs, some like big highs, some big lows. You know, that's not typical for you. Normally, you're one of the most consistent players. Is that kind of how you felt about this season? It's just been kind of all over the place.
Yeah. I think my life is all over the place and roller coastery. So why wouldn't the Schmoedown be? I don't have the same amount of time that like when I first started in 2015, 2016 to really kind of put the time in and the study time in to be as consistent as I have been in the past. I'm getting pulled in so many different directions by my own choice, with all the podcasts and all the shows and the constant things that are changing at Collider. Like today, when you're recording this, today's Christian's last day. So it's like a lot of changes going on here. So there's so many things that I'm trying to keep track of and also further my career. So there's a lot that went into this year. But the Schmoedown was like Godfather 3. Is every time I tried to get out, they pulled me back in and I couldn't resist. And so it wasn't until my girlfriend and I had a pretty strong heart to heart near the end of the year well, I guess like 2 months ago. Oh, hey, there's Kristen's.
Sorry.
Nice, interesting.
It was a weird
I'm
edit.
recording on my phone. This is unusual
Yeah.
for me.
He was
Who's the old
just getting
person?
real
Can't figure out
emotional, and you did that. God, Kristen, be
Yeah.
I'm a
professional.
parent now. I'm old. I think that's
how.
happened.
we
Sorry
sat
about
down. We sat down, and she said to me, "She goes, are you going to quit or are you going to stay? Because if you're going to stay, you need to put a little more dedication into it." So she kind of had been letting me kind of figure it out and whatever. And then once we decided that I was going to stay, then she was really cool with me studying and focusing up. And I had a goal to end the year double belted. And if I was going to end it double belted, I was probably going to retire after Spectacular, whether
that.
Christian liked it or not.
Wow.
And because I've done now with winning the tag team belts with Dan, I've done everything I can possibly do in the Schmoedown except for one thing, and that is to defend a belt. So once I defend the belt, the challenges left to me are almost none. And it's just about the joy of doing it and the fun of playing. And I really thought that I was going to win the tournament. I had a feeling from the opening from the start of the tournament in the game with Rachel that I thought I had a really good chance. And I wanted to piss a lot of people off by winning, which is
As
standard.
usual, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's how it goes. When you're the hunted one, they hate you. So I wanted to do it, and I came real close. And if I had my head and my wits about me a little bit more, I would have given Bibiani scores and soundtracks, and maybe that could have carried the day to victory. I certainly had it in my head with a 5-pointer. I just didn't know it, and I think I would have beaten the kid, I think I would have beaten Ben. I think I definitely would have beaten Ben. As much as he's been studying, as good as he's been lately, it's in here sometimes with me and Ben. And that's what I discovered, honestly. I know it's a long answer, but this is what I discovered at the tail end of the year is that the way I used to play the game was very organic. And by that, I mean, I would flow within the game. I would let the game come to me. And if I didn't feel like I was going to win that day, I would always lose. And I would just and I'd be like, nope, the game hasn't picked me. I'm going to lose. When you see me melt down against the Patriots, or when I lost to Ethan, which is one of the most embarrassing losses in my opinion, I was mentally not in the game. Ellis as well. When I lost that tournament 3 years ago, I know when I'm dialed in and when I'm not dialed in. And I felt like I unlocked something after the loss to Bibiani because I knew if I had just stayed still and stayed calm, I would have made all the right choices and won. And so in some way, I unlocked the game for myself, which is ironic to say 4 years later. And that's what helped me show up and like take care of business against corruption the way we did. Like I was just so relaxed but laser focused and didn't care about like waves or organic shit going on. It was more about this.
Well, and you could definitely tell that you were in a mental state when you were playing corruption. And that's something that's really both exciting and frustrating about the way you play is I can always tell when you're in your head and when you're like, you know, like in a place that's not great. I can always tell. And it frustrates me because I'm like, just settle down, just like take a breath, man. And you were in that title match. It was so impressive the way that you and Dan played, but you guys also were calm and you like thought through answers. And you know, when you were starting that match, there's so much history between you and corruption. Was it something that came into your head at all, or were you just like, you know, this match is going to be whatever it is. If we break up, we break up. You know, you didn't seem that stressed out about it, let's say. Was that something that you were just really chill about?
Well, I wouldn't say chill. I'd more come to terms with it on the plane ride from LA. I just was like, I'm going to something I got to give a little bit of credit to Jay Washington, which I hate to do, but I give a little bit of credit to Jay Washington because Jay said to me sometime earlier in the week before I left for the match, he said, dude, you guys have to come back to remembering why you played the game, like the joy of playing the game. Because so many people now that come into the league, they're like super studying and everything like that. And so it can get a bit intimidating because I've never watched a movie for the Schmoedown in my entire 4 years of playing the Schmoedown. I have never watched a movie for the Schmoedown. I've always either studied or just have recall ability for so many movies that I've seen. And so I didn't want to lose that kind of way that I play. But Jay doing that in combo with Ben Bateman. When I went over to take care of Ben after his back surgery for like 3 hours on a Saturday, we just sat and had a really awesome philosophical discussion about the Schmoedown. See, and people say it's just movie trivia. It's not just movie trivia. There's so much more involved in here. And so Ben and I sat down, and Ben like kind of woke me up a little bit because Ben doesn't approach the game from an emotional place. Ben approaches it from a very analytical place. And to him, he's like, if I prepare myself and I play the match the way I'm supposed to play it, I might have a regret or two at the end of the game, but then I just lost to this person and I move on to the next thing. A lot of us who are old school, like there's pride involved in the matches. Whereas with a lot of the younger kids, younger people coming into the league, they're just like, oh, I took a loss. All right, I'm going to get back on the horse again and go after somebody else. So there's a difference there. And I used to take the losses and it would just like send me into a tailspin for days or weeks, you know. And Ben just kind of unlocked a couple of things for me with that. So walking into the match with corruption, I showed up and I started to get a little bit nervous. And then I saw Dan, and Dan was so goddamn focused. And Dan and I were sitting in the green room, and each of us, and Mara was there, of course, and Mara was so great. But Dan was studying how he was studying, and I was studying how I studied. So we were both kind of like two old veterans who've been in the wars and been, you know, in football, like old school veterans who don't need to boo all the rah-rah, the histrionics. They know what they're doing once they get on the field. They've been there so many times. Kalinowski kept coming into the room and making fun of us studying. And that told me that he was nervous and that we were getting inside his head, because that's the shit I do when I'm nervous and when I'm getting in my head is I try to get myself psyched up by making fun of the other person I'm playing or trying to mess up their procedure. But Dan and I didn't play into any of that. And he'll probably deny it and say it never happened. 3 times he came into the room to try to mess. And I go, you still studying there, champ? You still studying? What are you studying there, champ? You still studying? So those things he did. And I know Mike, because I've known him for 20 years. I was like, oh, well, I think we got him a little bit. And I texted my girlfriend. She's like, oh, he's scared. He's totally scared. And so, you know, so when it just kind of all worked out mentally in the green room. And so by the time I put my clothes on, by the time I was ready to walk out, I was psyched up. I was like a lion in a cage, just waiting to go get that piece of meat. And so anybody who was there live in Orlando, who was in the backstage getting beers, watching Dan and I walk into the auditorium to go down and do our promo, we were just so goddamn focused. And I just had a feeling like if we play our game, we're going to win this thing.
Yeah, I'm hearing you 100%.
Can I just interject here?
Like
just
yeah, man, go
after
ahead.
hearing that story, to make my obligatory Rocky reference. So what you're saying is you were a lot like Rocky Balboa in Rocky 3, where he starts off, he's a little cocky, he doesn't remember the spirit of being a fighter, and then he had to get the eye of the tiger back to get his title back. You're very much the same. You had to go back to that 2016 Rocha.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, look, they've been letting me do that. Like I told Kristen, I was like, I can't play this face thing anymore. I just can't. I'm not built to play it. And Ben feels the same way as well. We're better when we're on our edge.
Yes.
And we play better when we're on the edge. And Dan did for me what I did for Dan after he lost to Andrew. After he lost to Andrew, man, I just was on him and telling him, you are the greatest one to ever play this game. Don't let that loss, kind of get you down. And, me, Mara, and Riley, like just kept picking him up and lifting him up. And, and step by step, Dan got his way back into the thing and won the title and defended it. And so it's like, so Dan did for me what I did for him. He picked me back up after our losses to corruption. And was like, no, we're going to do this thing. We're going to do this thing. And both of us just like felt it, like the vibe was there. So much so, and this is no lie. Let me tell you, I don't know if you guys want to go through the match, but I would say one thing.
Whatever you want.
One thing, in the fourth round by the way, when we got to the betting round, I picked a spot on the back of the wall in the auditorium and I just focused in on it. When we got to the fourth round, after the fourth round, Dan leans over to me and he goes, if they don't answer any of their questions, we win this thing.
Yeah.
And I said, and he goes, are we gonna do it? And I said, we still got another round to play. Focus up. I said that to the goats. Okay. And that never happens, right? I'm always deferential to Dan. But in that moment, I was so determined and so focused that nothing was going to get me out of my game. And it was so funny because we're back in the green room afterwards. And Dan said, dude, I'm so sorry I said anything. I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. And I go, yeah, you've watched sports. He goes, yeah, it was just like talking to a pitcher in the middle of his no-hitter or right at the end of his no-hitter. And I was like, yeah, that's basically what that was. And so I think Dan, when he answered the question for Smee, he put his hand on my shoulder and he just like, we did it, and then said the answer. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a great experience.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, from the first round, like just seeing both of you guys get a perfect round, which in teams doesn't happen very often. I was like, this is going to be a match. And I mean, Corruption maybe didn't play their best, but man, they fought to get where they were. And that's a good loss to me. Not that any loss is good, but fighting to that last question, that's all you can really do. And then having you guys win and actually get that belt and earn it the way you did, man, I was so happy. I was overjoyed. I'm so happy for you guys. Have you been kind of feeding off that energy since your win?
No, like I said at the end of the promo when we came back on, my first goal was to win it. My second goal is to defend it. Dan and I took a break. I haven't even looked at any of my study sheets yet because I gotta feel like it's the right time to walk back into it. I know Kalinowski and I were having breakfast the other day for his birthday with a couple other friends, and he was, he said, I haven't even looked at any of my notes, man. I just like that loss and everything that's happening. I just need a little bit of time. And and I respect that because I mean, he's fighting in two different leagues and it can burn you out.
He's got to defend that Intergeekdom title against Smets, and that's not going to be easy.
Yeah, because Smets wants
He'll
it.
do it.
Smets wants it.
Yeah.
We'll see. But I get it. So it's like, to me, I haven't looked at anything yet. But I remember walking back in the back, and the feeling was great. And then immediately my body goes, you're not done. So that was fun. That was nice. But now we got to go defend it. And that's the first time that's ever happened, that the elation of the victory didn't carry me or last for days. It was more a matter of like, you're not done. This is not over. This was just the next step. And now we got one more step to go. So we'll see.
That's what I like.
So it's like the end of Two Towers. I'm sorry. Just I found a way to make a Lord of the Rings reference.
Oh my god.
I mean, too many tree beers.
Honestly, with all the retirement talk happening
Yeah.
surrounding you this year, I keep saying I will believe it when it happens, and when it happens, I still won't believe it. It's good to hear you have that kind of mental process because there really has been a lot of talk about the Outlaw retiring from the
Mostly from
Schmoedown.
me, but
Well, from you as well, Dan. You mentioned maybe it's time for you to walk away. Uh,
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
the Schmoedown would not be the same without you in it. Let's be clear. You've made the Schmoedown what it is in many ways. But I'm glad to hear that you
Appreciate that.
are in the mindset of that you're not done because I don't want you to leave the Schmoedown anytime.
Well, I'll be honest with you. If we had lost, I was going to retire on the stage.
Yeah, I had a feeling, but again, I don't believe it
Chris,
until it happens.
well, I had kind of fooled Christian a little bit because I said to him that I was going to retire from the Horsemen, right? And I had let him believe that was what was going to happen, and so we had agreed on what I was going to do. Blah, blah, blah. But in my heart, I knew what I was going to do if I lost, and I was going to retire on the stage and be like, I've given it all I got. There's not. I couldn't climb this last mountain. That's the way it is sometimes. A lot of athletes don't get to go out with a championship. And I've given it all I got, and I don't think I have it anymore to the level that these kids are playing it at. And sometimes you just got to walk away. But I won the belt, so I didn't retire. So.
Well, that's perfect. So talking about your next match, the one that you're preparing for mentally, if not, with the trivia, you're mentally preparing for it. Who do you think is winning this tournament to get to you guys?
who do you think is the boss of that tournament that's going to win?
There's a lot of great teams. I mean, this it all started with Anarchy, and then everything that's been put together over the last few months and year has been pretty incredible. These teams that are all vying for it. I try not to focus on who could win or who couldn't win because that just sets you up for expectation or or feeling down about it or something like that. So I don't care who wins. Whoever wins, you're going to get my best game, and that's it. And Dan, I hope we're going to get, and I think we're going to get Dan's best game. I think both of us want to defend it. I mean, Dan is known for defending belts. So some of that magic could rub off on me if I win a critical moment when I need it, and we'll get it done. And so it doesn't matter. I think the tournament is going to be a fantastic watch for a lot of people. I think just like the singles tournament, there are going to be some upsets, and there are going to be some unhappy people who are cheering for their teams to win. And there might be some surprises. And these tournaments are crazy. It could be a judge's decision. Could be players making mistakes at certain critical moments that you didn't think would make that kind of mistake. The pressure is on. So to me, I'm just excited to watch. Whereas the tournament, when I won the title last year, the singles belt, I was nervous watching the tournament, and I was worried either Clark or Ethan was going to take me out, and so I wasn't ready to face either of them when we played in Spectacular. This time around, I'm going to be ready.
Yeah, I believe it. Matt, I know you have a bit of a follow-up question here. This is your chance to give him your own take on everything, Matt. Feel free.
Sure. Well, first off, John, congrats on winning the team belts.
Thank you.
I'll be next to you. So I know you said you're not prepping for who's going to win the tournament, which I actually think is a brilliant sort of strategy. But two of the members of your faction, the Five Horsemen, Mark Riley, Ben Bateman, the Goats, their team is in a spot to where they could be facing you. What would that be like for the Horsemen as a faction? Not even just what the game would be at Spectacular, but as a faction for you guys. Would it be civil war, or would it be whoever walks away with the belt, we're happy because the Five Horsemen will be holding it?
I think it would be an incredibly fun match between the four of us. Because Ben has finally ascended into veteran status. So the four of us on the table, like ball busting, making little comments, trying to get under each other's skin, but neither one letting it happen, would be fantastic. And Riley and Dan aren't shit talkers, but Ben and I are. So where would that factor in? I think you'd get two great promos from the four of us.
Yes.
And I think it would be a fantastic match that would go all the way down to the last question. I think, Who's the Boss is one of the greatest teams to not have a belt, to not have won the titles. And they certainly gave the Shire Wolves everything they could in that match. And I thought for sure they were going to walk away with the belts because of how Clark started in the first round. I thought for sure that would end up biting them. But, all props to the Shire Wolves, who are warriors in this game. They came back and defended that belt. And if that and I tried to make them say David Morse to beat corruption because I thought it would be incredible for us to face whoever won the tournament. But, it worked out the way it was supposed to work out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely in favor of an all horseman spectacular. Ben might not be so thrilled with having to play 3 very difficult matches at one spectacular, but if anyone could do it, I suppose it would be Ben. I'm
cheering for him in singles.
Yeah, I think, Bibbs, honestly, and this is something that I told you already, this is Bibbs' year, in my opinion. He's had the best year of many competitors. I mean, he's up there. And
I don't know how you say that. I don't know how you say that when he lost the free-for-all. He hasn't won any of the belts this year.
He is the best player that hasn't won a belt this year.
Yeah, sure. I would say Ben is the best player that hasn't won.
As would I. Why am I agreeing with John? Kristen. Move on to another question.
Is that Bibbs is playing the best he's ever played.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. But I had it.
You did. 100%. But losing to someone who, is having the best year of the season, one of the best players of the year.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. And Ben's going to have a hard time beating him as well. But either of those guys, I think, has Paul. I don't think that's a question in my mind.
I would not count Paul out, and I'll tell you why.
Who is counting Paul out? He's a cyborg.
Well, you said either one of those guys can get
I think
Paul.
that the veteran status of it with the live audience and everything, I think both of them, I think they could do it.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's certainly possible. I mean, you're right. Bibbs could be the one who's living my dream by the end of the year. If he wins that tag team tournament, he could be the one double belted by the end of Schmoedown Spectacular. And then at that point, everyone who's been talking about Rachel or Mike Kalinowski or anybody else as player of the year has to reconsider their vote. If Bibbs ends up the year winning both tournaments and then winning both belts, that would just be incredible. So you can't deny that, that would be, but I'm cheering for Ben to win. I've never wanted Ben to win more than I do now. I think to have the three of us, the Horseman and Ben, standing at the end with our belts to end the year would be incredible. And it would shut up all the haters and the critics of the Horseman once and for all.
Sure.
Perfect.
Which I think would be great. Yeah.
I honestly think actually Ben and Riley standing up there with you and Dan applauding that would also be nice.
Well, I said Horseman, didn't I? I said the Horseman and Ben. I didn't say us and Ben.
That's true.
All right. You and your fancy wordplay, voiceover boy.
One final question, because I personally thought one of the things that was holding you back as a player was the lack of a manager. However, since Tom has become your manager, maybe it's taken a while for things to kind of, fall into place or whatever, but, that once he became your manager, I thought it would improve your game more to have someone there to help you kind of make those outside decisions, things you didn't need to think about while you were trying to focus on the game, help you strategize, that kind of thing. What's it been like having a manager, especially one like Tom, who's
the greatest?
Sure, but also crazy in the best possible way. What's that been like for you?
Well, I think in the beginning of the year it was tough because Tom is such an unusual cat. And by the way, I love Tom off the Schmoedown set. I'm a big fan of Tom and everything he's doing. I like that guy. Good energy. But at the manager bowl, I think I think I was too willing to take Tom's advice and not more willing to trust my own gut with a couple of things. And I think that's where we were not simpatico, is that I hadn't figured out when to listen to Tom and when not to listen to Tom. And I think the Bibiani thing was proof positive, because Tom came in and was like, what do you think? And I was like, Sly and Arnie. But I think if Tom had been a player, see, that's the thing. I think what I need is a player manager. I think that would be the right manager for me. Tom got us, though, in a great place for the tag team title match. So I give all credit to Tom for getting us in the right place and consulting with us and coming in at the right time and keeping our heads like chill and still, and like giving us a pep talk against corruption in between those rounds. He was great with that. So that's why I gave him kudos at the end of the match, and I said, this guy's the manager of the decade, certainly, because it took a while for me to get on board, as I said, but once I did, we were fine. So who knows how things are going to shake out in the draft? But I like Tom a lot. I just think for me, I know the best manager I'm going to have is going to be the manager who's played the game and understands what's happening to me emotionally in a moment, or when I'm looking at something and analyzing slices on a wheel, what's the right choice? Because Riley wanted to jump in and tell me to do scores and soundtracks, but Kristen stopped him because you're not supposed to consult with players.
Right.
You're supposed to consult with your manager. So that, but then a smart manager would have walked over to Riley and go, what do you think? And then walk back over to me and tell me what Riley said. So and I think a player man, not a smart manager, I should say this correctly, not a smart manager, because Tom is a smart manager. I want to say a player manager would have figured that out in that situation.
Yeah, a player manager who didn't have potentially one of the best or worst, depending on your perception, matches of the year against Robert Marbinet.
but then won the manager bowl against.
I was gonna say
against all
come on.
That was the craziest match, I'm going to say right now. I get what you're saying about Tom. I think that he's better suited for a team or a player that isn't so comfortable on the mic, because that's his strength, is hyping people up, is getting them ready to go. It's not maybe so much the strategy part of it, but I think that he brings a great dynamic to everything. So I'm glad that he's with you guys. At least for now. We'll see what the draft shakes everything up.
I will say one thing. I want to ask you guys something. Do you think my last few weeks of promos have been my best promos I've done in a long time?
It's ridiculous. You played that crowd like...
Oh, man.
It was so good. I mean, I don't know if everyone in that crowd was your fan before they started, but they were all your fan after, for sure.
I want to say this. There's no, and people may not want to believe this or not, but look in my eyes. It was humbling as hell to hear your name being chanted by people, especially when, like I've spoken about many times, in 2016, I almost took my life, and because I really felt unloved by the world, and as many friends as I had, I never felt loved, and having your name being chanted, by these people, because those people aren't in the Facebook group. Those people in the Facebook group who are constantly bashing me or bashing the Horsemen or making snide comments at my expense, they weren't in the audience. The real fans were in the audience. And that was great to feel that from them. And it was just like, it was everything to me to hear that. So I'm being honest.
I honestly 100% understand what you're saying, and that is, for as much as to break kayfabe, as much as I shit talk John, I love him to death, and hearing that's awesome. That's great.
That's why I cried at the end. No lie. Yeah. Like the emotion of it all, just to feel that love from so many people who enjoy the game and were happy for us, just kind of broke me in that moment. And I'll always be thankful to the Schmoedown fans that were there. And those of you who were cheering us on online, watching the live stream, for, giving me that gift and giving us that gift, really, Dan and I, that gift. So, yeah.
I will have to say, again, this is always so difficult, because me and John have such an interesting on-camera relationship, to be nice to him. You are definitely, I think, number one, maybe, of all time, of you wear your emotions in this game on your sleeve, and that's something I really respect about you, is the reason why, for as much as I've hated when you've played against my favorites, it's so impossible to not root against you, because when you won the belt that first time, when you and Matt won the belt, the team belt, when you won this one, you always can see the work and the dedication and the emotion you put into it. And that is something that I do respect from you, John, as a longtime watcher.
I appreciate that. Thank you. You still can't manage me though.
Yeah, well, you're balding, so.
He's got more hair than you do. I don't know what you're talking about. You know me. I'm always going to be an Outlaw stan, but we know you got stuff to do. You know you got to go for your bedtime. Late,
yeah, what time is it there?
We get
3 o'clock in the afternoon?
It's 6:36.
Ooh, late night.
I got to jump on to another interview, or else I'd stay and talk with you guys a little bit more. But thank you so much for having me on.
You're good, but what are you doing? You've got like a million podcasts. You're very busy.
Yeah.
Why don't you let us know your podcasts and all that stuff, and where can we?
And
I think you might have muted yourself, Matt or John.
You can follow me at the Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. And you can the podcast I have the top 10, which is now on Collider officially, starting this Tuesday. Depending on when this drops, it starts this Tuesday. We are back officially on Collider, and we'll drop videos of the episodes the week after the audio drops, so you can enjoy both the audio version and later the video version. I've got the deep cut, which is happening at Collider, but that's really been growing with a lot of incredible guests. And then I have the Geek Buddies, which is my newest one that I do with my friend Mike Vogel and Shannon McClung. All of that, and the Cinephiles, of course. We just dropped the first part of the two-parter of On the Waterfront. So that's all Collider. Jesus Christ, there it is.
Yeah, I don't know how you have time for all that. Also, On the Waterfront is like one of my top 10 favorite movies. So. Good
and
choice.
The Cinephiles is my favorite podcast. So
perfect.
Yeah, I always appreciate how much of a fan you are of us, Matthew. Thank you so much.
It is my 20-minute drive to and from work. I just listened to the Cinephiles. That's all. I was listening to Big Trouble in Little China today. I love that show. Oh my god.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. That's where can we find you, ma'am?
You guys.
You're breaking up. So we'll do this later.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me? No. All right.
No, if you're not breaking up. Whatever you want.
Okay.
Whatever your heart's desire.
You guys, as always, can find me at Kearns_Matthew on Twitter, MattMovies611 on YouTube and WordPress, and right here as host of Second Look. New episode went up, I guess, last week by the time this airs, on The Frighteners, and episodes for the end of the year. This month is going to be on Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and next month, voted by you guys, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. So, yeah, and you can always find me annoying Kristen Smith to no end on the summit as well.
It's accurate. 100%. As always, you can find me, Smith_K10, the number, not the word, on Twitter, Stardust, Instagram, anything on Stardust. Go look at it anyway. I don't care. You can also find me hosting the summit on Take 3, where we talk about all the things of the Schmoedown of the week and have wonderful interviews with very special guests. That's it, guys. So thanks for watching. Follow John on all of his amazing podcasts, and we'll see you guys on